Hello YouTube, it's Tony. So today I'll be showing you a more up-to-date Vyrewatch guide, and so this guide will be geared more towards camping. Now before I get started, I'm going to warn you that this is going to be a very long and detailed guide, because there's really a lot to explain for this new strategy. I mean, if you're trying to AFK, you can skip most of the sections. So the main requirement for this is you just need River of Blood quest complete, so that way you can access the 2H Sun Spear. It's basically located in Darkmere, and the best way to get here is by using the Dragon's Medallion, then run west. I'm using a mage setup because it gives you the fastest kills per hour. So I start off with the Augmented Magic Sun Spear, and the perks I have are Precise 5 and Aftershock 3. After that I have Moritania Legs 4, and this will give me 50% more prayer XP as well as fire making XP from the Sun Spear cremating the Vyres. Then we have the Augmented Subjugation top, and the perks I have are Biting 2 as well as Mobile. I also have Impatient 3 perk on my second Gizmo slot, so the Cinderbane Gloves is a new item, and that does poison damage. It also stacks with Weapon Poison ++ for even better poison damage. Now otherwise you can just use Subjugation Gloves, but I mean the cost per hour is pretty cheap here. So the Amulet of Zealots, as I mentioned a million times, is a really great amulet to use here. Not only is this a non-degradable amulet, but it increases the damage you do from the leech curses by 10%. Since you're 100% accurate, it does even better DPS than Turmoil or even the tier 99 prayers. After that we have the Columbarium Ring, and I'll explain later how it works. If you don't want to wear that, that's fine. Just use the Surgeon's Ring or the Luck of the Dwarves. Then I have Subjugation Boots, followed by Subjugation Hood. I mean otherwise you can use Silverhawk Boots if you want Agility XP. In the pocket slot I have the Uncharged Godbook, but I mean otherwise you can wear the Spring Cleaner if you want to save inventory space. In the quiver slot I have the large rune pouch, and that basically stores the Alk runes as well as the runes for Airwave. The reason being is that the spell damage is capped to whichever one's the lower result of the weapon and the spell tier. Because Sunspear is a tier 80 weapon and Airwave is a tier 80 spell, this is why you want to use it here. So then finally we have the auras that basically restore prayer points as you get prayer XP. The Corruption, Salvation, and Harmony auras all have the same effect, and they do not share the same cooldown. If you entirely do not want to bring prayer potions here, then you will need at least a tier 3 aura. Other than that, you can just use a penance aura if you don't have any of these auras. So here's my inventory setup, and this is going to be for 2-hour trips. To start off, you don't need aggression potions. I have the Supreme or Holy Overloads, and then after that I have the Weapon Poison ++, but I mean I had no inventory space so I didn't even bother with that. Then I have the Gem Bag and the Spring Cleaner. I mean you can bring an Enhanced Excalibur for emergency healing. For the extra Pack-Yak and Mammoth, you're also going to be needing that because you're going to be using a legendary pet Beast of Burden, and this will make it last up to 2 hours long. So I also put one of the 3 auras I mentioned earlier in my inventory. I would bring up to 6 Columbarium Rings in my inventory. I mean if you do bring too many then you won't have enough space to loot all the drops. For my Beast of Burden inventory I have 3 more Holy or Supreme Overloads, and then I fill the rest with Columbarium Rings. Finally in my tool belt I have the Charming Imp and the Cedar Side. What I'll be explaining to you are the Columbarium Rings. So they're enchanted topaz rings, and they increase the chance of getting the shiny Columbarium key loot. It doesn't include the god pages however. While the rings are hard to buy, but they do offer better profit overall. Now each ring comes with 50 charges, and a charge is used up every kill regardless of whether you roll the table or not. For this reason, this is why you need to bring a lot of these. With that being said, the major concern here is the inventory space, as the Vyrewatch and Vyreladies do drop a lot of various items. So here are the prayers. I'm using Leech Magic Strength. You should pretty much be able to survive off of Soul Split. So here's the complete strategy, as I broke this down into multiple sections. Starting off with the first part of the strategy, you're going to be setting up the spawns. Sometimes the spawns are not always in the right positions, as you know there are people doing quests that can lure Vyres and get them trapped all over the place. The huge problem is that the Vyres will never go back to the original spot until they're dead. Anyways, I drew a map diagram of where the approximate spawn locations are by default. In the legend I have the white dot, which is yourself. The green dots are the primary spawns, and they should almost always attack you immediately upon spawning. There should be 4 spawns in total to begin with. Now the yellow dots are the side spawns. They're basically within their aggression range to see you. So I numbered all the yellow dots. The first one roams west and east, the second one roams south and north, the third and fourth one you must open the door to free them, and I'll explain the strategy later on. And finally the fifth one may sometimes be stuck behind the flagpole, so you gotta use either mage or range. So you want to start to look all over the top floor of Darkmire, then kill them and it will reset their spawn point. So again, the spawns can be found anywhere within the city. They can even be sometimes found in the lower level of the city, but make sure they're level 98 Vyrelords and Vyreladies. Pretty much just trim every corner basically. They will never enter any buildings that are instants, or anywhere where the doors will close immediately after opening. Generally it should take up to 5 minutes to fully set up, which is exactly why I recommend you camp full 2-hour trips. As you can see here, I was doing my setup, and I found 2 Vyres that were missing from their original spots. So let's get into the main camping strategy. Now it's very hard to survive early on, especially because of setting up the spawns. Your primary spot you want to stand is 1 square north and 2 squares east of the tree. You're going to keep attacking all the Vyres with AoE, and you don't really need to move that much. Once again, make sure there are 4 Vyres right beside you, and there are also 2 extra Vyres coming on the south and the west side. For the first 10 to 15 minutes, you're definitely going to have a lot of inventory space issues, especially with the Columbarium Rings clogging the inventory. Over time, as you use up more rings in your inventory, you'll definitely get more space. If you're going to AFK, it may not really be ideal to bring the rings, because you gotta equip a new one every 50 kills, and even sometimes I forget that. Alright, so here are my abilities. I'm using regular Revolution. Starting with the basics, I have Corruption Blast, Dragon Breath, then fill with any basics. You can also use Chain on the side for extra AoE, but you're gonna have to be careful with that. I'll explain later how it works. The thresholds, you don't really need any, but I mean Detonate does really help for extra AoE. The ultimates I'm using are Sunshine, or else you can use Tsunami. For the Revolution plus setup, it's not really that much different. Just place the Sunshine on the first slot, then Tsunami on the second slot, followed by Corruption Blast and Dragon Breath, and fill the rest with whatever basics you want. So let's get into the Vyrewatch mechanics. They'll only attack with magic, and they have a special property, which is exactly why things get interesting. So when they commit to attacking you, instead of attacking from where they're standing, they'll actually walk towards melee distance then attack you. However, the moment you attack them, they'll start firing magic attacks from where they're standing. In other words, do not attack them until they attack you first, or they're close enough to melee distance. This is exactly why you don't want to use Chain at first. Sometimes you risk accidentally attacking a Vyrewatch that's not within melee distance and actually has their attention to you. However, if you attack them while they're already in melee distance, then yeah, it does help with extra AoE. So with that being said, this is another vital part of the strategy, because it really helps cluster them for AoE and even faster XP rates. Now I'm not sure whether it's a bug or intentional, but it seems like it's been like this from the day it was released. So the next section I'll talk about is luring the Vyres that are already attacking you in non-melee distance. The solution towards this is you want to move around the tree. Then when they have to move, then just wait until they move close enough and then finally kill them. With this part of the strategy, I wouldn't recommend it at first until you recognize their attacking patterns. So the next part of the strategy is called opening the west doors. Well, it really increases the kills per hour, but it's not recommended at first until you're familiar with how the spawns work. So from the spot where you're camping, move 1 square diagonally southwest and then hit Surge. That way your character will end up right beside the doors so you can open them right away. Finally run back to your spot. With that said, the Vyre should be able to see you, then approach you, thus allowing more kills per hour. Now there's no guarantee whether they catch your attention or not. This strategy can sometimes backfire if the other Vyres enter the room and actually end up getting trapped. For the most part though, it's a pretty ideal strategy overall. You also want to check if there's a Vyre stuck on the northeast corner of the room. Now there are times where you have their attention, but instead of actually walking towards you, they may sometimes just go to the northeast corner. So what ends up happening is they're stuck there until you teleport out of the area or kill them to reset. Anyways, the solution towards this is go to the door and then close it. Then wait for the Vyrewatch to be facing the door. Finally, you can open the door and kill it, or go back to your original spot and lure it. What happens when a Vyrewatch is out of position from the spawns? I mean, this happens sometimes, but anytime you see this, just simply kill them and reset their spawn points. It's usually hard to recognize at first, and it's really hard to explain. You'll notice that directly west of where you're standing, there's a non-attackable one, right? Once in a while, the Vyrewatch that's approaching you from the west will actually get stuck there. In order to solve that, just walk underneath the non-attackable Vyrewatch. From now on, it will no longer get stuck behind that. Here's the final section of the strategy, and that is for the looting. First of all, you want to area loot all the drops, then drag and drop the algables to the money pouch to alch them. If your inventory is full, then just drop the item, then take the item that won't fit in your inventory, and just keep alternating basically. You're gonna have to do this every 1 minute or so just to make sure they don't disappear. Alright, so in conclusion, I've explained the entire strategy. Anyways, if you don't understand what I explained, then I do have a full 2-hour trip video in the description. My XP rates are based on non-AFK. So you can expect around 900 kills per hour. Sometimes you can even get 930 if you're really lucky with the spawns. The XP rates you can expect are around 600k magic XP per hour, 378k per XP per hour with Moritania legs, and 270k firemaking XP per hour. The farming XP per hour does vary, and using Columbarium Ring at my kill speed, I got around 150k farming XP per hour at level 99. You're most likely going to get a lot less without the ring. I think it's around 100k or so, I don't really remember. As for the profit per hour, you can expect around 8 mil GP per hour in gross income. If you don't believe me, then I also have a full loot video from 100,000 Vyrewatch. I'm not really sure in terms of supplies how much the cost per hour is. As for the charms, yeah, it's really terrible anyways. So yeah, thanks for watching and I hope it helps. If I missed anything, feel free to ask.